All right, what's up, everybody? This is Terminator Juice, and I'm back with another Juice Opinions. The title states, what classic games need a remake. So I'm going to kind of just, just name off and kind of discuss freeform. I don't have anything really written down or planned. Some classic Nintendo games I'd love to see get remaked. And the reason I'm making this video is because this game right here, it got a remake and it comes out on the 6th of February, real quick. And I'm picking it up. I'm excited. And if you see my PS3 controller over here, I was actually playing this on my OG fat PS3. And yeah, it definitely looks and runs better, way better on the PS3. But it's not a great looking game. The controls are pretty sluggish, and it's still, it's still a great game, and I'm really looking forward to the remake. So I'm going to discuss, what classic games. I'm probably going to stick to some NES, mostly Super NES and N64 era, but just going to kind of brainstorm some stuff. But before we get into that, I just got to get something off my chest. So this is going to be a longer Juice Opinion. So settle in for like an epic live stream. Last week at some point I tweeted when I found out that, I think it was live on the Juice Loose podcast, we realized the Shadow of the Colossus remakes being sold for $40. And then I posted on Twitter, this makes Nintendo look really, really bad. And then I had, Bayonetta 2 Switch version and Tropical Freeze Switch version listed on Amazon for $60 a piece. And I'm like, this makes Nintendo look really bad, because Bayonetta 2 basically just straight port up-res version. Tropical Freeze got, stuff added. It's just easy mode, basically, for make the game more accessible. So it's nothing I'm going to take advantage of, but at least they put some work into adding something to that game. But still, there was a huge, that caught fire, and the next day it was at over 170 likes and almost 70 retweets. My phone was just blowing up, and I didn't want to just stop getting notifications from Twitter at all. And I didn't like the direction. A lot of the conversation had turned to length of time that the game's worth 60 because it's this long, gives you this many hours, debates that don't hold up, because you could say that about any game, even an NES game that, or Super NES game that's got 50 hours of content. You don't just up-res it and charge $60 for it in today, and call it good, and then you had the one of the things I want to talk about is the Switch owners they came from PC, PlayStation, or Xbox, third-party gamers who aren't used to Nintendo games, the pricing of Nintendo games, in that they don't get immediate price drops. So there's a debate about why Nintendo games should get price drops, and it's bad, and stuff like that. So I'm going to cover a lot of that, because this is a Juice Opinions. This is just my take. And but I forgot to mention too, I deleted that tweet, if you're looking for it, because I just was sick of the notifications and I didn't like the direction. It was getting a little ugly, and some of the back and forth. So I went ahead and deleted the tweet, and I was like, I'll just talk about it. But I don't want that to be the focus. I will spend a lot of time, I think, discussing that, but I really want to talk about the good side of the Shadow of the Colossus remake and what I'd love to see that happened to some of my favorite games of the past generation for Nintendo's on Nintendo's side of things. So let's just get right into it. So where I stand, and we talked about this on the Juices Loose, on Wii U ports coming to Switch, any ports really. I don't think anything that's basically a straight port, like HD version in the past generations, if it's just one game, it's not a collection, which Bayonetta 1, 2 comes with Bayonetta 1, so that one's, there's some gray area. But if it's just a straight port, like the Shadow of the Colossus original remake or remaster on PS3 came with Ico And Shadow of the Colossus, I can't remember the price, if it was 40, 50, or 60. They didn't do any. They just up-resed it, and it ran at 30 frames per second. The game didn't look vastly improved. It really wasn't that good of a looking of a game. I never picked it up based on that. But I don't think any old game being up-resed should be full price, period. And for me, this, unfortunately, one of my favorite, I listed as my favorite Wii U game. Now that a few years have passed, it's still top 5 for sure. But the problem I feel is when you're just porting it to the system, it runs at a higher resolution. It's the same price that it was 4 years ago. I don't give a shit that it comes with Bayonetta 1 digital version. That doesn't change the fact that it costs the same. This cost 60 3.5 years ago, and putting it in 1080p on the Switch cost 60 now is unacceptable. I don't care how much content, because Final Fantasy 3 or 6, depending on the region you're in, has 40, 50 hours of content. If they just, maybe that's a bad example. Let's take Final Fantasy 7, which would look terrible. Just bump it up to 1080, charge $60 for that. Come on. Tropical Freeze, like I said, they added essentially a casual mode, an easy mode, because the game is very challenging. So it doesn't impact me. I wish it was something I was going to use and looking forward to use, but at least to me, now this is just for me, I know that they actually took time, had somebody, Funky Kong model was there, but you got to animate them, you got to give them move sets, you got to bug test, you got to play out, make sure he works in all the levels, and do all that. So at least I know work went into it. It's not just a straight port. But again, it's a mode that I would never take advantage of, and it's not for me. It's for people who aren't as good at those types of games. It would help them get through it. But in my mind, they put money into it. They worked on this. They didn't just port it and it runs in a higher resolution. So for me, unfortunately, Bayonetta 2 is the worst of the situation. Tropical Freeze, I guess I forgot to factor in that was $50 when it came out, so they bumped it up over the original. So it kind of like they're both bad. It looks bad on Nintendo either way. Neither one of these games should be $60. And again, not again, but I forgot to say, Tropical Freeze price isn't official by Nintendo, but Bayonetta 2's is on their website. It says the digital version of Bayonetta 2 is $50 if you just get the game, and then Bayonetta 1 is $10. Or if you buy Bayonetta 1 first, it's $30, then Bayonetta 2 is $30. Like, it's $60 for the pair of games, no matter which way you slice it. If you just wanted Bayonetta 2, like Mohammed, that's a way for you. But if you got a Best Buy or Amazon 20% off, the digital version is the same price as the physical version, because once you get your 20% off, then it's $50. Actually, it's $48, so it's actually cheaper to use your Best Buy or Amazon discount, buy the physical version of Bayonetta 2 than it is to just buy Bayonetta 2 digital. And it's like, it's just, it upsets me because Tropical Freeze and Bayonetta 2 are both top 5 Wii U games, with Super Mario 3D World, Mario Kart 8, Smash, Xenoblade Chronicles, Super Mario Maker. They're all great games. And it hurts me because, I don't like seeing Nintendo be greedy and make a Sony move, which Sony's doing the opposite. But in the past, this is something I would expect from Sony, this kind of behavior. And it's bad because, I'm not, I might want to replace these games at 1080p and, in portable mode and stuff, but I'm not going to double dip when it's the same price or more than it was originally. And the second part that's really bad is I want these games to sell. I want people to buy these games, but if they have any knowledge at all, they know these games are old. They see that $60 price tag. It's going to scare people away. That's just a fact. Now, Bayonetta 2 was $40 by itself. Maybe you could say $50 with Bayonetta 1. I still say the bundle should be $40. Tropical Freeze should be $40. And then they have a chance of really selling like they deserve to, because they're both amazing games. I was just playing Tropical Freeze World 2 today, and it's just challenging. The music's amazing. The visuals look beautiful. The gameplay, 60 frames per second. The controls are just amazing. So these games deserve to sell. And the way Nintendo's priced them, I'm afraid they're not going to sell, or they're not going to sell nearly as well as they would have. So, everyone who wants to point to Mario Kart 8 Deluxe selling, 5.5 million copies, sold 8 million on the Wii U, out of a 13.5 million install base. Mario Kart is one of Nintendo's top selling franchises. I don't know where it's at, but with Mario Kart Wii, Mario Kart 7, and now Mario Kart 8, both versions combined, it's got to be near the top two, top three for sure of their highest selling franchises, like not including Pokemon, which they don't outright just own Pokemon like that. They don't make it and stuff, but it's one of their best selling franchises. And they added just a ton of content. The battle mode alone is worth another, I'd say, $20 easily. And, being online, being split screen, the new characters, all that DLC that was only $15, but you took a $60 game, $15 DLC, and added that battle mode. That game is still a deal at $60. So you can't just compare every game equally. You got to look at it like, what does this game offer? Like Hyrule Warriors, that original Wii U game still sells for $40. The DLC is $20, so that's $60 right there. Then you got the 3DS version, which you could say the 3DS version has everything. You could just skip the Wii U version, get the 3DS version for $40. It still sells for $40. And, you'd be good. You'd have all of the Wii U stuff and the 3DS stuff. But then the sacrifice on, unless you have a new 3DS, it runs like shit. There's not a lot of enemies on screen. You got the circle pad instead of an analog stick. So to me, Hyrule Warriors is fine with everything you're getting. I think the timing is a little off because the Fire Emblem Warriors still trying to, get a foothold in the Switch's lineup, as far as sales. But to me, straight port. Yeah, they added some amiibo to unlock costumes. That's the fun. The fun of replaying this game is the Halos to get costumes. It's just the Nintendo costumes, which you get right away anyway. So they're not even expensive. So it just bugs me. I don't care. Cartridges cost more than discs. Then give me both cartridges. Give me Bayonetta 1 on a cartridge, Bayonetta 2 on a cartridge, charge $60. I might say it's okay. I don't know. But, it's just, it doesn't look good for Nintendo when Sony, and I put a link in the description of this video to their little 4-minute, they're talking to Blue Point about the remake, and just to see like the difference between the old game, the new game, and they're a passion, and they wanted to stay true to the original. And then the game's only $40. Like, to me, this could have easily been a $60 game. I think it should have been reversed. Shadow of the Colossus remake, I have no problem if it was $60 for what they've done. It's one of the best looking PS4 games I've ever seen. The PS4 Pro version actually gets a bump, 60 frames per second, or a 4K version. And they said it took at least 2 months on each Colossus, like just building it from the ground up, from scratch. A lot of work went into it. That could have been 60. This being in 1080p ported to Switch should have been 40. It's just this game, like I said, I have no problem with. I'm not going to rebuy it, but I have no problem with 60 with everything you're getting, plus the bump in resolution, plus the benefits of switching characters and stuff and gameplay tweaks. Terrell brought up Wind Waker HD. That was $50. What, Shadow of the Colossus makes that look bad. It does a little bit, but when you think of the improvements, like Shadow of the Colossus is basically graphical and, control. If you want to play with modern controls, you can play classic. What Wind Waker HD brought to Wind Waker was made that, for me personally, a lower tier Zelda game to upper echelon Zelda game. The improvements to the sailing, not having to change the wind, have to do the damn Wind Waker constantly. I messed up, so now I got to do it again. All that bullshit. The what do they call it? The Triforce quest. I mean, you still had to find 3 pieces, I think. The weapon switching, the gyro aiming, like that was just a brand new game. The visuals, like it was just a remaster, but the way that cell shaded, you know, to me that looked as much like a remake almost as Shadow of the Colossus. So each game's different. You can't just put a blanket statement on there, and you know, and just call it good. So it is what it is. You know, you got to look at each game individually. I stand that Bayonetta 2, even though it comes with the digital version, is the least amount of work went into it. So therefore, because the price is the same across the board, to me, it's the worst offender. Tropical Freeze is right there with it, though, because it's $10 more than the original release was on Wii U. And the mode they added is, you know, a casual friendly mode. So, you know, and, you know, 1080, it's going to look great at 1080. It's probably going to look better, like more impressive than seeing Bayonetta 2 in 1080, I think, just because of the art style. But anyway, the next part I want to get into this is this notion, and this is mostly non-Nintendo gamers who now jumped on the Switch bandwagon. And K-Bomb 20 from Live and Level podcast was the first person that kind of awoke me to this thing. And there's been other people now I've seen making comments. He has not bought a game for a Switch yet because he's waiting for them to go on sale. First party Nintendo games. He didn't want to buy Mario Kart 8 Deluxe at Black Friday because it was $59.99. And he was trying to make a case that that's just ridiculous. It's bad, this and that. And I'm like, how's that a bad thing? How is knowing that if you buy a game day one, a Nintendo first party game, for the most part, you can buy that confidently day one and not have to have any buyer's remorse or anything 2 months later when you see it for $40, when you see it for $35, like an EA game, Titanfall, you know, it wasn't even 3 weeks. I think it dropped to 45 or 40. The second one, the DLC, the season pass went down to $5 and then on PC, and then it was free. To me, that kind of stuff is a slap in the face of people who buy your game day one, and it devalues the game over time. You know, I'm not a guy who sells games or trades them in, but it feels pretty good knowing that in 2015 I bought this game for $60. I don't even know if I was using Amazon's discount at that point. And it's still $50 to $55 new right now. Like, to me, that feels good, knowing that the game I bought still has value. It's still worth something. It's not just a throwaway game in the bargain bin. Like, I don't know. To me, that's a positive. Now, if you're not super excited about a game, and maybe, you know, like I made a video, games that need a price drop on the Switch. So maybe you could say I'm contradicting myself. There are games that after they've come out, sales have tapered off. It didn't gravitate to, it didn't get this big mass appeal, that maybe a price drop would help promote sales, and especially for online gaming, get more people playing the game, more people buy it, more people playing it online, a better, you know, the online lasts longer. But mostly, you know, like Doom, I don't even know, that should have been $60 at launch. Definitely shouldn't. It's on sale, and I just want to take this time right now, if you're watching this live as of January 26, 2018, the eShop sales are for real right now. 25% off Doom, FIFA, LA Noire, NBA, bunch of indie games. So definitely go check those out. You gotta get them digitally, but so the thing is, getting back to this, I bought this game, you know, in the week it came out, Resident Evil 7. I was just using my Best Buy discount. I got it for $52. But a year later, it's selling brand new for $30. So what does that mean? Any trade-in, any resale is gone now. Like, probably trade-ins, probably $10, if that. Resale for a used copy, 15. Yeah, like I said, that I'm not planning on doing that, but it's nice, and it's just peace of mind for me to know that, you know, I don't have to wait. Or if I do wait for one of these games, yeah, I'm going to get them cheaper. But then I'm going to be missing out on playing a game. If I really want to play a game, would I rather wait 3-4 months for a price drop, or would I rather just buy it now knowing that I'm not going to get ripped off later because it's going to be half price? You know, for me, that's just peace of mind. Just same reason I buy Toyotas, because they hold their value as good as any car. Like, I think the Toyota Tacoma holds its value better than any car in America, period. Like, you buy that, yeah, they're more expensive new, but they're not much cheaper used. So you could say that that's a bad thing, but if you buy one new, it's a good thing. If you're looking to buy one used, then it's a bad thing. So again, this is personal opinion. You might say, like, Muhammad, we don't want to play every game at launch. Why not? Like, unless 5 games, like, I'm not sitting there buying every third party new game in the holiday season. So there's not that problem. I don't have that problem of like, oh, there's too many games. If I buy all these games day one, now I have 5 games to play in the same month. I don't game like that. But it did affect Fire Emblem Warriors. I was going to buy that till it came out a week before Mario Odyssey. That affected it because, but when I buy it, it's going to pretty much be full price. If I buy it the next month or two, it's going to be $60. I have no problem with that. It was my choice to wait. And somebody who bought it day one, if they do want to trade it in, if they do want to sell it, because Nintendo doesn't drop the price, now their resale value, now their trade-in values is high. It works equally across the board for their games. It's not like, oh, it still sells for 60 new, but trade-in value is $10. It doesn't work like that. Whatever the trade-in value of a $60 game is, it's going to still be that if the game's still 60. So unless you just don't want to support maybe you're not financially as set as someone else, and you can't buy $60 games all the time, get the Best Buy Gamers Club. Then they're $50 all the time, $48 plus tax, whatever. I think it's $51 with tax in Michigan. So, I guess if it negatively affects you, you can't play Mario Kart 8 Deluxe because you need it to be $40 or cheaper to be able to afford it, then yeah, it does negatively affect you. But to just say flat out that it's bad, that these games don't drop in value, I don't think a lot of people look at it the way I just described it. And to me, I love knowing that there's no reason to wait. What if I want to play a game, I buy it the day it comes out. I don't have to worry that it's going to be like Forza 7. It's probably selling for $30, $35 right now. I mean, that's just what happens. In fact, I'm going to double check. Not saying that that's the worst thing in the world, but to me, it's bad because I like the things I buy to hold value. So, that's just me. Actually, Forza Motorsports is still full price. So there you go, Microsoft. I think Microsoft does more. I think Microsoft's more in line with Nintendo lately, especially with Phil Spencer in charge. It's Sony and third parties that really do the price drops really quick. I got Horizon Zero Dawn in June for $40, and then take my 20% off. I got it for $32. In June. It came out the same week as Breath of the Wild. Breath of the Wild is $56 on Amazon. It's $60 on Best Buy's website. $60 Best Buy in store. You think it's a good thing? I don't. I didn't need to play Horizon Zero Dawn at launch. It was $40. As financially as a consumer, I was like, that's nice. I don't have to pay $60 for it. I wanted to play it anyway. I had it pre-ordered at $60 until the Zelda and the Switch was coming out in the same week. So it was an added bonus, but at the same time, somebody who paid $60 for it 2 months earlier, oh yeah, that's going to happen as a consumer. But I don't know. I like knowing that my games hold their value for whatever reason. If you don't, then you don't. No reason to debate. If you feel different, that's fine. For me, I just like, and I just like that, like I said, they hold their value, and it makes it like I don't have to worry. Like I can buy it day one. There's peace of mind there. So maybe somebody didn't think of it that way. But whatever, this whole discussion is getting a little tired. I just had to get it out, and this will be the last time I think I talk about it, unless Nintendo announces more Wii U ports and they're $60, and maybe we'll talk about it again. So, but let's get on to the main topic. Again, I showed this. I got the Remake ordered, $40, so $33 and some cents at Best Buy Gamers Club. Really looking forward to it. It's my favorite PlayStation exclusive of all time. I think second place might be Gravity Rush 2. Last of Us, those are probably my top three. Not a huge fan of Sony's exclusives, but Shadow of the Colossus is a great game. If you have a PS4 and you never played Shadow of the Colossus on the PS2 or the PS3, I'm going to tell you, like, get this game. Like, I don't know if it's going to hold up and have that awe factor that it did back in 2005 when it just blew our minds for what was possible on the PlayStation 2 with the fur and all that, the horse, which to this day, if it wasn't for Breath of the Wild, I would say Shadow of the Colossus still has the best horse controls animations. The horse animations still look great on this 2005 game. That overall the graphics look washed out and not great. The horse animations still look amazing, and so I'm glad this game got a remake. I didn't like the PS3 up-res BS. That didn't do it for me, and I'm just excited about what I'm seeing. They're holding true to the original, but like it's one of the best looking PS4 games. They said the controls, Digital Foundry said the controls are really responsive. The gameplay is best it's ever played by far, and I'm looking forward to playing it again. So there's a lot of classic games from early GameCube, even though I think a lot of those GameCube games still look really good and way better than Shadow of the Colossus. But I'm thinking N64, some Super NES, maybe an NES game or two. What ones could use like this Shadow of the Colossus remake where they stay true to the original, but it's such a vast improvement, like visually, frame rate. Like frame rate was notoriously bad on the PS2, and with modern sound, 5.1, 7.1, just the full gamut. What games could use like this, a remake in the same vein as Shadow of the Colossus? Now, obviously the Switch, I'm thinking Nintendo games, I'm thinking on the Switch. The Switch isn't capable of the Shadow of the Colossus remake level of visuals. So it's not going to be as far of a leap, it's not going to pull it into the modern age and just wow you as much as maybe this running on the PS4 Pro or something. But first one that jumps to mind is the obvious ones, the Ocarina of Times, the Mario 64. But I'm hesitant just to say those right away because we got Breath of the Wild last year. We got Super Mario Odyssey last year. So the impact of playing Ocarina of Time again, looking better and, having better controls and all that, isn't going to be as impactful because Breath of the Wild changed the game up so much. Like going back to Ocarina of Time's structure, like they'd have to really, I don't know what they could do to just make that feel like not going backwards, even if it looks better than Breath of the Wild. Like still from a gameplay standpoint, it would have to be more than visuals. It would have to be like how you do the inventory system, how you, instead of having like 3 buttons with weapons, they'd have to really rethink a lot of stuff. Would I love to see it, with I guess it would be Breath of the Wild, but on steroids type of art style, because it wouldn't be such a big of a world, and if they stayed more true to the scope and scale. Um, but I mean, that's an easy choice. I think it would be great. I'd love to be able to aim with the gyro and stuff. I think that'd be a huge improvement. Um, with, take that music and modernize it with, digital audio, really high quality, um, character models, everything would have to be just completely top notch. It would be great, but I'm just thinking, after having played Breath of the Wild, would it be as impactful? Same with Super Mario 64. We just had Mario Odyssey. Mario 64 in the Mario Odyssey engine isn't going to make as much of an impact as Shadow of the Colossus, because of they hadn't had a game other than The Last Guardian really even remotely like it. So it's going to be like kind of brand new to a lot of people. Whereas bringing Mario 64 onto the Switch with the Odyssey engine, we just had Odyssey, so it's just going to look like Odyssey but have Mario 64 level design. I don't think that's as impactful. So I'm trying to think of games that would have more impact. Now, this isn't like a huge feature-rich game, but Wave Race 64, we never got anything past Blue Storm, which I think lost the soul of Wave Race 64. But that one would be like, if they really put some effort into wave physics, water reflections, animations, 60 frames per second, sound design, got rid of the arcadey kind of annoying announcer guy, that would definitely be a $40 type of game. But I think that would be one of the biggest for N64. I think that would be one of the biggest improvements you could make. There's some other games, but Nintendo. I'm thinking Nintendo's IP, Nintendo first party. Excite Bike 64. That's a good one. Another like smaller title that one definitely couldn't be $60. It'd have to be a budget title. But like GoldenEye couldn't do. It's already been remade. Other, Activision's done it a couple times. So I'm thinking N64. Someone said Donkey Kong 64. Now, in the Odyssey engine, that could be, but the base game always just looks sluggish, boring, collectathon type of game. So now, while it would probably look awesome, for me personally, that wouldn't get me super excited. And I'm trying to think, because we have, like Yoshi's Island, but we got Yoshi's Woolly World. We got a new Yoshi game coming. So it's a little bit harder because Nintendo doesn't let their franchises go dormant so much. But one that I think, if maybe we go to the Super NES era, I think the biggest impact, honestly, would be 2D type games. Even though Shadow of the Colossus is a 3D game, this whole concept's based off that. But I think Super NES 2D games would probably see the biggest improvement, because obviously it's not 3D, so they could really push the visuals. Think of Super Metroid. I know we just got Samus Returns, but Super Metroid with, I'm thinking Ori and the Blind Forest type of, maybe not that quite that art style, but the way the lighting impacts, the world, really could sell. I don't know exactly what art style they go with. I think that would be freaking amazing, and that music, put it in a 5.1 mix, like really high quality sound, rescore it with the same music. I mean, that could be awesome. The original Legend of Zelda, to stick with Zelda, take that game in that same format. I mean, you could say the same thing to Link to the Past, and throw every freaking visual thing you could at the original Zelda game. Stay true to the layout of each screen. You'd have to have it do the same thing. I think you'd get to the edge of the screen and it'd go to the next screen. Otherwise it would, because there's some, if you ever look at that, someone put that fully together, there's like one screen's like desert and water, the next screen's like completely a different environment. So you have to keep that scrolling screen effect. But think of like those little bushes and some trees, and now you add a light source and you add like awesome texture work, and then those trees and bushes, there's shadows that really sell the depth, and the sand texture, the water reflections. Like you could make it look almost real. I think the Switch could handle it. You could make it look like like top tier CG animated movie. Like it would look freaking amazing. Yeah, the game, once everybody knows, a lot of old school gamers know all the tricks, all the secrets, wouldn't be as much discovery. And for new players, it'd be like, what the hell do I do? But I think if I had to pick one game, that would probably be at the top of my list, just because I'm just looking at it right now. The cave, you go in, you come out, go to the next screen. It's lined with trees and bushes, and then just awesome lighting. And you could have like some areas be at night, like the cemetery area, have awesome fog and moody lighting. It's just, I think it would be fantastic. Super Mario World, you could say. I thought of that, and then I'm like, well, New Super Mario Brothers U basically is Super Mario World. Some of the levels feel a little uninspired, but the ones that are like top tier, I don't know what else they could do with like the Super Mario World aesthetic, unless they come up with just a really cool hand-drawn looking art style. GameCube is a little tougher for me. Like I said earlier, I think a lot of those games still look good. Like Clocked It said, first thing he said was Metroid Prime 1. Yeah, I mean, they don't look amazing, but they still are pretty good looking games. Not saying I wouldn't want it, because I think it would, there'd be a lot of room for improvement. They could build up. They wouldn't have to completely start from scratch though, because they just got to tweak Samus's character model, get rid of some jagged edges, some round things over the environments, like, texture work and all that, make it widescreen. I think it was widescreen on the Wii release anyway, but there's room there, but not as much. I'm trying to think of a wow factor like Shadow of the Colossus, from what it looked like in 2005 to what it looks like in 2018. There's a huge wow factor on visuals. And that is, this whole discussion is mostly visuals, because a lot of those games still play great. Ocarina of Time, to me, is borderline, because the fact that the controls are inverted and use the stupid yellow direction buttons for aiming, and are like, it's just for me, it's very hard to play that game now. So that one would be like, the control benefits would be almost as important to me as the visuals. But games like Link to the Past, Super Metroid, they play great today. So we're really just talking about audio and video visual improvements. So that's kind of it, in case somebody was wondering, well, why are we talking about just about graphics? Well, a lot of these games still play great. So graphics is really the only way to improve them a ton. So I thought I'd see way more like good suggestions in the chat, but Pilot Wing 64, that's actually a really good one. The gameplay maybe wouldn't be as engaging for some people in today's day and age, but it was really cool when you got I think it was a plane or something, and you could fly, and you saw Chicago, then you saw like the Mount Rushmore. I think there was a free flying mode where you could just go where you wanted. It was really awesome for the time. And yeah, I mean, that game would have to be they'd really have to just start absolutely from scratch, because Chicago skyline looks pretty pathetic going back to it now. But that could be something that could wow people, and it was fun. I really like those. Maybe you'd have to take that game, mix it with Wave Race, and kind of combine them to really make it worth people's time. Star Fox, another great one. Someone suggested on Twitter. I asked this question. The original Star Fox. Now, they kind of remade it with 64, but added thing I never loved was the land and sea missions. Just take the original Star Fox and just throw every visual advancement the Switch can do, Unreal Engine, whatever engine it needs, and throw everything at it and make it just the, really true to the original. I'd actually love that. That might be right there with the original Zelda game. It's not going to sell a ton. People aren't going to like, oh my God, I want to buy that game. But for me personally, And again, I don't think that should be a $60 game. I think a Star Fox game made from the ground up, to be a, basically a remake of the original and stay true to it. I don't think you could charge more than 40. Luigi's Mansion would be cool, but I think we're gonna get a third Luigi's Mansion. So, and the second one looks so good on the 3DS. I think it would be a little pointless to do the first one, but maybe to get people interested in a Switch version of of Luigi's Mansion 3, maybe you could bring the first game using the same engine they do to make the third game. That could be cool. I feel like I'm missing something significant from Nintendo. Trying to think of my favorite. And I forgot to start this with what I was going to kind of set this whole thing up with. Is Nintendo's already kind of done this with Mario Kart 8 and Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. We can see what Super NES track looks like in a modern age. Almost, I mean, it's almost, to me, it's as impressive of a feat as the Shadow of the Colossus remake. Looking at those Super NES tracks, those N64 tracks from Mario Kart in Mario Kart 8 and Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, depending on which one you played, if you played them both. But that's the type of jump I'm talking about. Taking the original Mario Kart track, like what one is the Rainbow Road one isn't as impressive, but the Donut Plains, the Mario circuits, like seeing that stuff in Mario Kart 8, like the first time I saw those tracks, I was just like, wow. Remake the entire Super Mario Kart original game, remake Super Mario 64 in this game engine. They kind of basically did. We got so many tracks now, it's basically already done that. Some take advantage of the anti-gravity, some say absolutely true to the original. So for me, that's an example of exactly what I'm talking about for Nintendo taking what I'd like to see, a Super NES N64 game, and what it would look like on the Switch. So that's kind of my baseline for what I'd love to see. Donkey Kong Country, the original. I know people are sick of Donkey Kong. Instead of bringing Tropical Freeze to the Switch, imagine if they just remade the original Donkey Kong Country game in the Tropical Freeze engine in 1080p. So the first time you're seeing Donkey Kong in 1080p is the original game remade from the ground up. Like, that to me would be exciting. That's probably a $60 game, actually. Or do what Crash did. Do the Donkey Kong Country Super NES trilogy. That would have been a better option than Tropical Freeze. Even though I love Tropical Freeze, it's actually a better game than those games. Those games are way more unforgiving and some frustrating levels and stuff. Donkey Kong Country Returns on the Wii. I'd rather seen that get remade with the Tropical Freeze engine. Like, I'd rather see that on the Switch than Tropical Freeze. It's just older, the better, for one. But seeing like 3-4 generations and really going all out with a remake, I mean, I'm getting excited just at the thought of like the original Donkey Kong Country games redone. What else was like big Super NES games? I think I hit most of them, but I feel like I feel like I'm forgetting like something that's so huge. Like, how could I forget, but I don't know. What do you guys, I'm going to see if you guys can come up with anything. Maybe we can go outside of Nintendo for a little bit, like the original Castlevanias. I seen the Bloodstain kind of update, and yeah, that game looks good. Some of those original Castlevania games, if they just remake them, then they don't need to like worry about coming up with awesome level design and stuff. Just remake the old games to look amazing, and then you don't need as much creativity because you're just remaking what was already good. Those types of Contra, the original Contra. Konami, please. I cannot remember the last time I played Contra because I don't have my old NES. I don't have a copy of Contra, and the first Contra game has never been on the Virtual Console. They always do Super C and Contra 3, the Alien Wars. They never do the original. Imagine the original Contra plays just the same exact game, but looks just like, God, I'm trying to think of like the perfect art style for Contra. maybe like not quite as fantasy like Trine like that style, but a quasi realistic, like a really good lighting, maybe looks like CGI like a movie type level of not going for realistic, but awesome effects, lighting, and stuff like that would be freaking awesome. And what's up from Taiwan there? That's a long ways away. What's up, man? Sook, I'm just gonna call you that. Um, Come on, dude. Superman 64 and Sonic the Hedgehog 06. Oh no, Superman 64 on Sonic the Hedgehog engine. That's funny. Um, no thanks, but you can't take bad games and remake them with visuals and think they're going to be good games. Like, just let those bad games stay in the grave. But yeah, I think I'm pretty much out of ideas. So hopefully you guys appreciate this. I'm not as creative with this kind of stuff, like listening to Red Knight talk about things he'd like to see Nintendo do. He's in the same mindset. Like, he could work for them. He comes up with ideas they come up with. Like, he thinks the way they do, and I'm not as good at that as he is. Maybe I missed just a game, so slap me in the face in the comment section. If you're like, dude, why didn't you mention this game? Duh, Super Mario Brothers 3, I guess. I didn't mention that could, keep the exact same game. We've seen what that art style looks like just straight in HD, and it looks good. Super Mario Maker definitely looks good, but to see like hand drawn, like Rayman Legends, Rayman Origins type of art style, not the exact, but hand drawn, beautiful art with like Super Mario Brothers 3, plays identical to that. I think I'd be on board with that. I might even pay $60 for that. Like, that's the kind of stuff. If you're going to bring an old game, that's the kind of stuff I'm looking for. Ports are fine. Like I said, as long as there's new games, I don't have problems with the ports existing. I do wish Nintendo would price them more competitive so that, some of these games like Bayonetta 2 and Tropical Freeze would sell. I think you could say that about any game. Well, if it's cheaper, it's going to sell more. But I mean, these are all games. Tropical Freeze sold over 1 million. Bayonetta 2, we don't know definitive numbers, around 800K according to VG charts. They deserve to sell more. And at $60, I just don't think Bayonetta 2 is going to do much. Because it's an old game. It's 3.5 years old. Tropical Freeze, by the time it comes out, will be over 4 years old. It'll be 4 years and 3 months old. So I want to see more remakes, less remasters and ports moving forward. I'd rather see old Super NES games get remade than see Wii U ports. I hope we don't get any more, even though Xenoblade Chronicles X has been kind of, the director said he'd like to do it. People should play that game, but to make that game on the Switch, you're going to take away an awesome feature, which is the gamepad map feature. It just makes navigation, fast travel. Yeah, you can hit plus or whatever and bring it up and use your gyro aiming, to touch on where you want to go. They got to do something better than Xenoblade Chronicles 2. There's some improvements could be made, but also, like I said, Splatoon 2 was never going to be as good as Splatoon 1 because of the way you jump to teammates, but I actually think the gyro pointer, bringing up the map system, works as good, if not better, because I'm just already looking there, boom, hit the button, do it. I just was playing that last weekend, didn't even think about it. I just did it and jumped to teammates and used the gyro pointing. So maybe Xenoblade Chronicles X would be fine, but again, it already looked good on the Wii U. So where do you got to go with these? That's the other thing. Like, I kind of mentioned it, they're just getting up-res to 1080 from 720. There's not much room, to wow people with those Wii U ports coming to Switch. So, would a Wii game, would Xenoblade Chronicles, that'd be way more of a wow to bring the original Xenoblade Chronicles using the Chronicles 2 engine. Like, that would be a game I'd want to play. Like, I tried to play that a little bit more today on the Wii U, the Wii version, and it's just, the combat, it's like I can't even tell what I'm hitting because it's just shit on the screen, and low resolution. The character models look terrible. It's just, you know, a game like that could use a remake. You know, maybe it's not old enough to deserve it, but don't just up-res it. Don't do what they did with Shadow of the Colossus on the PS3 in 2011. Do what they're doing in 2018 on the PS4. Do that. I'll be happy. You could even charge $60 if you do that right. So anyway, that's going to be it. I'm going to go play some video games. Probably play some Rocket League. Again, the eShop sales, I bought Rive for like 11, 12 bucks. 9 Parchments on sale. Third-party games, Doom's $42. LA Noirs like 30 something. If you got an SD card, definitely get some of those games while they're on sale. It kind of contradicts what I'm saying about games holding their value and stuff, but if it's on sale, take advantage of it. You know, it's just one of those things. Arms is on sale. I think Arms is $41.99. It was one of the games I had to admit probably needed a price cut because people didn't think there's enough content in a fighting game to buy it. Sales has dropped way off to nothing, and the online community's dying. So that one, I said, hey, that's what you got to do. That's what you got to do. But I don't get mad that they don't for titles that basically last the test of the time. Ocarina of Time, is that a $5 game? If you can find the original cartridge, you know, you're going to pay for it. So I kind of like that. But anyway, that's going to be it. Hope everybody's going to are having a good weekend. No football this weekend, so I'm going to be playing some games. I beat Xenoblade Chronicles 2, and I'm going to finish up Resident Evil Revelations 1. That's kind of just a quick little, you can tell that was a 3DS game. The levels are very short and not a lot of depth to it. And I'm going to get into Rive and then just focus on like Rocket League, and maybe I'll play some Doom online more. So yeah, if you guys have any suggestions, if you're watching this on the replay of games that you'd like to see, whether it's a Nintendo game or not, let me know. And we'll see you guys next time.